In this video, I want to go over some examples of how to find volume of prisms and cylinders. So we went over the vocabulary. You should have those out as we're working through these notes. So on that set of vocabulary that we went over, I discussed how to find volume, and I gave you some formulas. So this first shape, if you need a second to grab that, and if you want to take a minute and copy this first shape down, go ahead and do that. Pause the video if you need to. So example 1, all of these examples are going to ask you to find the volume. This shape, if we look at it, we see all the sides are 8. That means this is a square prism, or what we call a cube. So we know the volume formula for a cube. You should have it down in your notes on the vocabulary. You know, if we identify with the base shape here, it's a square, obviously. So we've got 8 by 8. So that would be the bottom one and the top one. And then we're just going to plug, so this would be like your base and your height. And then the other height, so the distance between the two bases is this 8 here. So these are my side lengths. So this base and height is from the base shape, and this blue height here, right, this blue height is the height separating the two bases. So when I do my volume formula, I'm going to do volume, and again, you should have this already from your notes. The base shape here is a square, so it's big B times H. Well, the big B, remember, that's the area of the base shape. So in this case, it's a square. So we know the area of a square is base times height. So we'll say volume equals base times height of a square times the distance between the two bases. So in this example, the base and the height of the base shape is 8 because it's a square, so it's 8 times 8. And then we said that the height was also 8. So the distance between those two bases, we said that was our blue 8. So that was our H. So that is 8. So if you just plug that into your calculator, 8 times 8 times 8, that gets you that the volume is 512 inches cubed. And remember, anytime you're working with volume, you need your units to be cubed. So if you need to take a second to copy this down, please do so. Pause the video and make sure you get this one copied. Example 2, find the volume of this figure. So again, you're going to start by identifying what's the base shape. So here, notice I have 4 by 12. We could use this shape here as our base. So this shape, 4 by 12, this is obviously in the shape of a rectangle. So this is a rectangular prism. And we know how to find the volume of that. So those are my bases, what I shaded in. So if you need to take a second to copy this down, go ahead and do so. Pause the video if you need to. So we know how to find the volume of the shape. It's one of the volume formulas that I went over with you. If you look, we know our base shape is the rectangle. This rectangle, this green rectangle, has, we could call the base 12 and the height 4. And we also know the distance between those two green rectangles is this height right here. We know that this is 3. So this is our extra H. So the volume formula for this one, remember, it's volume equals big base times height. So where the big B represents the base shape. So the base shape we said is a rectangle. So we're going to do volume equals base times height times height. So for this one, we're going to do 12 times 4 for the area of that green rectangle, and then we'll multiply that by 3 because that red H is the distance between my two parallel bases. I'm going to do 12 times 4 times 3. And guys, you can do all this. You can just type this right into your calculator like that. You can do 12 times 4 times 3 in your calculator. And what you would get is 144. And then if you recall, they didn't give you any units. They just gave you the numbers. So we're going to write 104 units cubed because you always need to include units. Just like when we worked with area, you need to make sure you include units. So take a minute if you need to and get this one copied down. The next example, this one could be a little tricky. Remember we talked about it when we went over the vocabulary. This is a triangular prism. So here's your triangle. Remember, there would be another triangle on the other side like this. And we would have this dotted line along here, which you can't see. So this and this is your base. And I know I just scribbled all over the height of that triangle. So your base here is the triangles. So the way that you find the volume formula, whoops, sorry about that. The way you find the volume is, well, we know our base shape is a triangle, right? So the base of the triangle here is 13. So it's this length right here is the base of the triangle. The height of the triangle is this right here, is 11. Because remember, the height of a triangle is always perpendicular to the base. So this is the height of the triangle. And then the distance between those two triangles, remember, that's your height of the prism. So the height of the prism is 15 feet. So this is my extra height. So I'm going to use my volume formula. Volume equals big B times H. So remember, the base shape here is a triangle. So we know the area formula for a triangle. It's 1/2 base times height. So this is a triangular prism. And then we're going to multiply by the other height. So I'm just going to plug in what I'm given. I know, sorry, this looks like a 6. This is a B. So I know that the base of the triangle is 13 and the height is 11. So I'm going to plug those into my formula. So volume equals 1/2. The base is 13. The height is 11. And I'm going to multiply that by the distance between the two bases, which if we scroll up is 15. So again, this is a job for your calculator. And I'll do this one step by step. So the volume is going to be 1/2 of 13 times 11 is 143. And then I'm going to leave my times 15. So I can do 1/2 of 143. It is 71.5 times 15. And when you do that in your calculator, you get 1,072.5. And this was measured in cubic feet, so feet cubed. So this is your answer. It's 1,072.5 feet cubed. So if you need a second to finish this one, please go ahead and pause the video and finish this one up. The next example, again, this one also has a triangle. So if you want to take a minute, copy the picture down. The base shape here is going to be a triangle. It's this shape right here. And the side parallel to that side is this side over here. So this is a triangular prism because my two parallel sides are both triangles. Remember, in this one, we see the rectangle, but there's not a parallel rectangle to this one. So that's why the rectangle isn't the base. So in my triangle, that's my base shape, I have a base of 12. So I'll call this my B. And then my height is this length here, because remember the height of a triangle is always perpendicular to the base. So my height is 16. Now the tricky part is, we're left with this 20 and this 10. So which one of those is going to be useful? So which one of those is the distance between the two bases? So and hopefully you can tell the number that's in between the two bases is the 10. So my other height is going to be 10 because that's in between the two bases. Write down the formula for the volume of a triangular prism. So remember that's volume equals big base times height. For a triangular prism, remember we're doing the area of a triangle. So it's volume equals 1/2 base times height times the big height, or sorry, times the distance in between, which is our extra height. So let's plug in what we know. So for the triangle, the red triangles, the base is 12 and the height is 16. It's going to be 1/2 12 times 16. And the big H we said was 10. So we're going to simplify this a little bit. So the volume, 1/2 of 12 times 16. So this will be 1/2 of 192 times 10. So 192 divided by 2 is 96. So the volume here is 96 times 10, which 96 times 10 is 960. So it's 960, and this was centimeters cubed, I believe. So 960 centimeters cubed for this one. So if you need, pause the video and go ahead and make sure you got this one copied down. So next example, example 5, find the volume. So this time they give you a cylinder. So your base shape here is a circle. So here's my base shape, and then here's my other base. We could shade it in if we want to. So take a minute if you need to and copy this one down. So they want you to find the volume. So the volume formula, remember, is volume equals big B times H, where the big B represented the area of the bases. So if you look at your notes from the vocabulary, the area formula, the volume formula for this one is going to be volume equals pi r squared, so that's the area of a circle, times the height, so the distance between your two circles. So to do area of a circle, you need the radius. So they give it to you. Remember, the radius only goes halfway across a circle. So this red line here would be the radius because it only goes halfway. So the radius is 7.2 meters. And then my big height, that's the distance between my two circles. So that's this distance here that I'm highlighting in blue. My height is 11.5 meters. So I'm just going to plug those into my formula. The radius is 7.2 and the height is 11.5. So the volume equals pi times 7.2 squared times the distance between those two circles, which we said was 11.5. So we're going to simplify this quite a bit before we plug it into the calculator. So if you need to, pause the video for a second and then copy this down. So for this, we're going to have to do 7.2 squared first. So 7.2 times 7.2 is 51.84. So 51.84 times 11.5. Next, we're going to plug in our value for pi. So I'm going to simplify volume equals pi, we know that is 3.14. So I'm going to say 3.14 times 51.84 times 11.5. And then you're just going to plug that into your calculator. And if you do that, you get 1,871.94. Let me scroll up on you just a second. This is meters cubed. So meters cubed. That is the volume of that cylinder. So take a moment if you need to, pause the video and make sure you get this one copied down. Last example that I have for you is example 6. So given that a cylinder has a diameter of 8 centimeters and a height of 14 centimeters, find the volume of the cylinder. So let's just go straight in order to the information that we're given. They tell us that we have a cylinder. So the very first thing you should do when they tell you what shape you have is sketch that shape. So a cylinder, remember, that's the shape that has a base of a circle. So circle, circle, and then connect them with your height. So we have a cylinder. The cylinder has a diameter of 8 centimeters. This is very important. It's a diameter. So remember, the diameter goes all the way across the circle. So that is 8 centimeters. The height of the cylinder is 14 centimeters. So the height is 14. So remember, that's the distance between the two circles that we drew. So that's the length of this line here that I'm highlighting in green. This length is 14 centimeters. So I'm about ready to put this into my formula for volume of a cylinder. However, we are given a diameter. The diameter, remember, is represented by the letter D, is 8 centimeters. So if I want to find the radius, remember the radius is half of the diameter. So the radius is 1/2 of 8, which is 4. So my radius is 4 centimeters. So for the volume of the cylinder, I'm going to say volume. So volume, remember, it's big V times H. And this was a circle. The base shape was a circle. So it's pi r squared times H. The radius we just found was 4. So volume is pi times 4 squared times the height. So the distance between those two circles is 14 centimeters. So then from here, we're just going to simplify this. So pause the video if you need to simplify it to get up to where we're at. So the volume is going to be 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to write 16 pi times 14. So if we plug in our value for pi, remember pi is 3.14. So it's going to be 16 times 3.14 times 14. So when you multiply those three together, you get that the volume is 703.36, and this was centimeters cubed. So this is your volume for that cylinder. So if you need to take a minute, go ahead and take a minute and copy that down. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and I'll be able to help you help get those questions answered for you.